On the Level podcast, your Masonic podcast. Join the hosts Billy McIntyre and Sam Earl Sedgey as they delve into the world of Freemasonry.
Welcome, brothers, brethren, friends, fans, people of the world, to yet another episode of On the Level podcast. I'm your host, Sam Earl Sedgey, and with me is the man. He is the visionary. If it wasn't for him, we would not be doing this. And the man who, brings it all together with all these fantastic brethren who come on our shows and explain a lot of cool, groovy stuff. Without any further ado, Billy McIntyre. How are you, Billy?
Hey, I'm here and I'm pumped about this. Having another Grand Officer on our podcast.
Oh my God, what an interview! What an interview! I mean, the reason why I'm pumped and kind of excited, and when you guys listening to it, the breakdown of just a part. He kind of gave us an insight to a part of the function of the Grand Line, just a small function, and then they do a lot more. But the fact that he broke it down and he went through it, and the fascinating work they do as an organization of just, not only for the membership, but for society and for the state. And dude,
it's like every time these guys come on, it's like they're pulling the curtain back a little bit and giving you a little peek of what's going on in their life. And you don't realize how much they're doing all the time. Anybody that's a member here in Illinois, these Grand Officers are running all the time, but you never really know what they're doing. So you keep listening to these podcasts when they come on, and every time they give you a little bit more of a peek, and you listen, you think, "Oh my gosh!" And I mean, I've been a member of quite a long time, maybe not as near as long as a lot of people. I had no idea they did all this stuff, and I'm finding out more all the time. And I think, man alive, not only are they traveling sometimes 30,000 miles a year plus, they're also doing all this. So it's just amazing. The more you hear, the more you realize they're doing a lot for the membership.
But you know what? Really warms my heart? We're in an age where there's so much negativity, there's so much darkness, there's so many horrible things going on, there's so much division, there's so many arguments, there's so much envy, jealousy, hatred, misinformation, misunderstanding, a lack of knowing our history and where we're from and who we are. And out of all of this noise and all of this chaos and all of that kind of stuff, just having something and just listening to this light, whether it's the charities that they're supporting, whether they're supporting the membership and the lodges and all this good work, from these good men, it really kind of like just warms me, because there's so much going on the headlines and so many scandals here and there. And it does kind of like depress you, and I try to stay away from all that nonsense. Even just stay away from the news. I'm like a hermit now. Just don't want to watch it anymore. And just to hear, Right Worshipful brother, Angelo Deserio, our grand brother, right, Angelo Deserio, just discuss just these great, objectives that they're doing. That's good. I mean, he'll talk a bit about the farm committees and other charities that we do, and the things that we do for the state in terms of the children charities programs we've got, and all the other stuff that he talks about, and the amount of work that goes through to make these things happen. It does give someone like me hope, as and again, sometimes I think we forget, even in our own localities, what we do, whether it's like fundraising a small amount of money for a particular local charity or for a local school group. I know Frank and Nicole Lodge 1170, one thing I'm really proud of that the guys have been doing is, we donate some money for a local school, which gives them packed lunches and stuff like that, food, which is huge, because a lot of these kids, come from very humble backgrounds in the area.
Right.
And so, just all of this goodness from whether it's a small local thing to a grand lodge
Sure.
thing, it's just huge. And in this day, we need more of this type of stuff. We need to expose more of this goodness that this light that exists, Billy, and
Right.
really let people around the world know, out of all this darkness, there is a bit of light, and I'm very
There
proud
is.
to be a Freemason, to know
And
that
for
we
you
do so
people
good.
that listening from Illinois, when we talk about and you all know, and I'm not, I just want to reiterate for you people that Illinois Masons, when we talk about the stuff that the Grand Lodge is doing, that's actually what you're doing as a Grand Lodge because you are a Grand Lodge. These officers just happen to be the ones that you help elect to oversee what you do as a Grand Lodge because there'd be no Grand Lodge without you as a member because the money that they use comes from you. You help bring that money in, and that's where your money goes. That helps make buy those scholarships for the kids, and helps for the charities that they support, and that all money comes from us as Illinois Masons.
It really, I mean, just guys, listen to what Right Worshipful Brother Angelo Deserio, or Grand Senior Warden, goes through. It just makes me want to go back to my local lodge. Like, right, how's the committees doing? What are we doing in our committees? And how we, and there is a really interesting process here, which is and something that we can all learn from in terms of our lodges is especially worshipful masters or worshipful brothers like ourselves, is the importance of our new brethren coming in, and when they do go through the chairs, you can emblematically use the template. Put your junior deacon on a committee. Maybe he's really good at. Maybe there's a committee. Maybe the Facebook committee to post the Facebook events and let people know on Facebook. The lodge loads of lodges have lodge pages, or if the lodge is a website or whatever you do to communicate on social media within your locality of your brethren. Have a committee where you are active and you do something like that. I'm not giving you a suggestion. I'm not saying you should do it, but it's just a suggestion. It could be a charity. It could be anything really. And, get your officers active in committees. And what I really like is they're the ones who communicate back to the rest of the officer team. So what does that mean? Well, a lot of the past masters sitting on the sidelines, get them involved in these august committees in your local lodge. Get them to bring their wealth of experience and get them active or activated. And suddenly lots more stuff tends to happen. Suddenly when you do an event, it's not just 6 guys, it's 24 people and their families coming along, or a Christmas dinner, or whatever it may be. Many hands make light work. And if we can, and if instead of the feeling that you have to do everything yourself, or you and 3 people have to do everything, spread it out, give
Hmm.
people those responsibilities and check on them. Hey, how's things going? What's going on? Is there anything we can help you with? How are things? And at the same time, though, don't create committees for committee's sakes, and check if someone can commit to putting the time and energy into it, without having lame duck committees. So that's something that I've taken on board, and it's given me the currency and the enthusiasm I've always had, because we've talked about this before, of continuing what we're doing in my lodge as Worshipful Master from my fantastic line of officers, brethren, and past masters. And other lodges that I've seen do exceptionally well. Again, I always say, St. Paul's Lodge 500 are phenomenal, and they have phenomenal committees as well. But I think that is a really important process, because what they're doing on the state level, on the Grand Line, not saying we should copy exactly what they're doing, but you have a template, and you can take from that what you may, but you can take the best parts and try and apply it on a micro level in your area. Just an idea, guys. Just an idea.
Or modify it to help use it to somewhat use it, just to get an idea how to make it a template. There's a lot of things you can do, what they do is get it all the way through all the committees is what they use that so that you learn to do everything that the Grand Lodge does before you get to be Grand Master, so you know how every single thing works. And it's a really good idea. And what Sam's saying is you'd be able to go through everything that the lodge does before you're Worshipful Master if you go through all the chairs. If I'm
Exactly, that's
right. Yeah.
correct. And then you have the experience, and then you have the knowledge base to put in place the people where you want in the committees. And he is right. The person who is a great ritualist who also loves teaching, make him, your head ritualist who, comes and does the teaching. I identified one of my brothers, worshipful brother Ryan Miner, and he loves it. I mean, he's a busy man. He's an IT guy. He's got a fantastic family, and he's got kids. He's busy like the rest of us. But you know what? He's so passionate about, and he's fairly a young chap as well. He's a young guy, but he's so passionate about the ritual and making sure everyone's proficient. Where in context of opening and closing and the ritual work we do in the degree work, that he makes that time. And I've seen messages of him saying, hey guys, how we're doing for practice this Thursday, who can make it? And he takes his time out of his own time, and he teaches us, and he gives us instruction. And he's now working, and I was so impressed by him. I kind of pushed him through a few seeds in his head, saying, hey, maybe you should go for CLI. And I'm really happy that he took that suggestion on board, and he's actually going for it. And it's identifying people like that. And then there are other people who are just really passionate about helping their local area in charity work, and we'll do all sorts of things like dress up as Santa. We've got George, worshipful brother George. He looks like Santa, by the way, when he dresses up as Santa. And he's a great guy. He's always been, he's like a fixture chaplain guy, and he's just an awesome guy. And he's done a lot of work with the local scouts and all that kind of stuff. And again, it's identifying people in where their passions lie and what they want to do, and identifying that and taking that, saying, hey, you can do this and you can take this to the next level. What do we need to do to make that happen? What can we do collectively to get there? And, let's assign you to that particular committee. We've got our own little, what I call, our major games master, Lord General, I call him, Charles, worshipful brother Charles Robertson, who, if it wasn't for him, he tracks the Grand Master's Award of Excellence, and he tracks everything and lets us know what we've done and what we need to do to get to silver, and if we've achieved bronze already to get to gold. There's just all these things that you were supposed to do anyway, but the point system encourages us to do all sorts of things like that. The ringing of the bells, that was you got a point for doing that, and I never did a ringing of the bells thing, and we did it, and oh my God, we raised, in our 4 hours of going outside of Kroger's and ringing the bells and me singing Merry Christmas, which I really enjoyed, by the way. I mean, I don't drink. I always say I'm drunk on life. I think I produce alcohol from my blood veins. That's the reason why I don't drink alcohol. And here I am singing Merry Christmas. Every time someone put money in that little red box thing, I would start singing more songs, and it was great, and people was laughing and smiling, and we raised $500+ in those
that's awesome.
in those 4 hours. My brothers, Frank and Nicole Lodge, all of us together raised $500, and that's huge. And I was shocked. I saw lots of people putting money in, and I sang more. I felt like I'm busking. I was like, oh my God, I could busk for a living. No, I could busk for a living and make loads of money. But no, it was great. It was great. But my point being, before I get myself carried away, is that's the energy I get from leadership. And our grand line, the leadership we've got, they are on the tip of the spear, and the enthusiasm they have is so infectious. And the reason why I'm so happy is it's so good to have good leadership. it's so good to have leaders. And in the world where we desperately need leadership, we've got it in Illinois, we've got it in Freemasonry. And it's something that the world needs. And hopefully they are leading by example. And it's so nice to see that. And the more leaders we have, the more good men we can recruit and build and become great leaders, the better the world is.
Well, if I can say, if anybody that's been listening to this podcast, well, from the beginning especially, but anybody that's been listening to it for a little while, even you've noticed we've had a couple different grand masters and a couple different grand officers besides the grand masters. And if you can't tell, every one of them that's talked on here has been very enthusiastic. I mean, overly enthusiastic, if you ask me. And that being said, there's got to be something going on. These guys are excited to be in their job. They're not oh hum. So when somebody's excited about doing their job, there's something good going on. They're not dreading their job, or they wouldn't be on here excited. They'd be going, oh, why would they want to be talking about something if they weren't excited about it? So that there's something good going on,
I tell you what,
and
I tell you what,
I
though,
love
Billy.
it.
I tell you what, though, Billy. Yeah, when he came on, and he talks about lasagna. You know what?
Yeah,
It's nice having noodles. I was in this. I was in a. Actually, it was kind of funny. I was in this really nice Japanese restaurant yesterday, in China, and the food was good. But I tell you what, I wouldn't mind having a good lasagna, mate. That's something that they don't do
I could hear
here.
your belly growling when he was talking about it.
Oh my God, yeah. Don't get me wrong. There's some great food here, but Angelo, right, Worshipful, brother, Angelo Deserio,
Well, we've
our
heard
epic,
about it. Everybody we talk to
yeah,
says how good it is. We've
mate.
dropped enough hints, but he won't ever give it up.
Mate, I need to get some of that lasagna, mate.
He won't give up the goods, man.
I need to sneak in when he's making some lasagna, and put my hand down and ask for that, dude. I'm hungry. I'm hungry. It's early in the morning in China, and they don't do lasagna here, and so that sounds great. But it's just stuff like that, It just reminds me of the food that some of our brethren would cook, or for me, it'll be Worshipful Brother Charles, who's actually a master chef. His
Yeah.
making food, and it's just stuff like that. And at the end of the day, these are just good men who have earned their privilege and their position, and are doing great works. And it's such a privilege. It's such a joy, and I feel so lucky. And thanks to you, Billy, for pioneering this podcast, to be able to as a historian, just grasp these pieces of history, and being able to just witness it happen, and record it as we are through this podcast. And
And I appreciate you give me props on this, but I've just been, this is just, I don't know how to say it. It's just been, I don't know if this is, man, I don't want to sound kooky. This is almost fallen in my lap. And I mean, it's the grace of God. I can't say it any other way, because I just told you the other day, I always think, well, who am I going to get to do this next? Because I mean, look at our guests. These aren't just like, run of the mill people out of the street. We've had some awesome guests, one after the other, and they're all great. And I think, man, I can't top this guy. And the next thing you know, the next thing somebody will come to me, and I think, hey, this would be a great guy on the podcast. You want to be on the podcast? I sure do. And I think, wow. And then there's people lined up, and I'm thinking, wow, this is great. I've got more people lined up. I've got more good people. And I just think, just when I think there can't be anybody else, we got good people lined up. So it's working out good for me. And Sam, I couldn't ask for a better partner in this. I mean, Sam's always, he's in China, guys. He's got to get up super early, because he's, 10 hours. Is it 10 hours ahead of us?
12 hours.
Is that 12 hours? Yeah. See, so we're working on opposite ends. I'm ready for bed, and this guy's got to get up early, So I work on the farm, and Sam's over there, are they making you pick rice or no? I don't know what they're doing. Sam's busy. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, there's a lot of things.
I'm always busy. But no, it's just, it's a great privilege. It's a great journey. I've really enjoyed doing the Knights Templar historical episodes, which will continue. I had a lot of fun doing the Empires and the Craft episode. I think there's some very deep
And
things that we
obviously you
touched on.
guys like that. And so we're going to continue that on. And like I said before, we're getting ready to do coming out. Well, by the time you hear this, we'll have our Tombstone episode coming out. And if you guys like that, I got some Western episodes that they'll all be about people that were Masons. If you like that, I've got some stuff planned on that. So we're gonna kind of explore the people in the 1800s that we don't hear a lot about those Masons, but the Masons survived all the way through those, even though there was kind of times that people don't talk about. So that's kind of what we're going to look into.
Well
And
said.
we're not going to forget the Templars because, man, that you can't find anybody that's not fascinated by the Knights Templars.
And we've only scratched the surface on our temp. I mean, we
Yeah.
kind of like set the scenes, and we kind of established the groundwork here on the Knights Templars to give you, the setting, the facts. The myth busting was very important. I always say,
Hmm.
well, the next episode is about the battles, but something else comes up which I find far more important to establish, so we can set the scene. And actually, once you get into the next episode, you already have all that knowledge and all that history and a better fundamental understanding of what a Knights Templar was. And I think with the 1700s and 1800s and 1900s, this proliferation of Freemasonry around the West and in Europe predominantly, and in America, create and all these phenomenal people, from Churchill, to for me, Lord Admiral Nelson. Then you got George Washington. You got Benjamin Franklin, and
Yeah.
you got all sorts of characters throughout, even Andrew Jackson and all these other characters throughout history, basically, who were master masons. The kings of England, all the way up until the king who abdicated, King Albert basically took over, the father of Queen Elizabeth. He wasn't a master mason, but all the other kings after King George III was a master mason. And then there was a bit of there was no king when you had the era of Victoria. But the interesting thing is that who are these people? Where were they? What was the setting like? What was life like? And sometimes we forget how dark and how miserable and how horrible that world was, just in the sense of, remember, penicillin was only
Mm, yeah.
recently discovered, just a little over 100 years ago, and this was the era before that. This was an era where colds and diseases and all that kind of stuff, really, if you got it, it was game over,
You're done.
and you were
Yeah.
done.
Let me
Yeah, go in the era.
let me tell you
Go
a
on,
fast. Oh,
go
go
on.
ahead.
No,
Go
go
ahead,
on.
bud.
No, go. Because I'm about to say something fascinating, so I'm all ears.
I'll tell you a funny story. I'll tell the people a funny story. So, I'm the legends guy. I just love this stuff like this. So I was talking to a guy. He was talking about Christopher Columbus, which I don't think was a Mason that I know of. But anyway, he was talking about him finding the New World on accident. And I said, well, possibly. And I said, this is just something to speculate. I said, I kind of think we don't know, but I think the at one time the Templar fleet was nothing to trifle with. It was probably one of the biggest fleets around. I said we can speculate it was because it had to be big. And it was feared, I'm sure, because everything the Templars did was top notch. They had the money and they had the power to do that. And I said, I think they sailed a lot. And he said, yeah. And I said, so isn't it odd that when you see the pictures of Columbus's ship, it had a Templars cross on there? And he said, I never thought about that. And I said, yeah, look at that. Isn't that odd that, that he put that on there before he went? Almost like he thought maybe he was going there. I said, isn't that funny? Maybe. I said, just maybe he knew where he was going. And maybe he knew that that was there. I said, maybe he knew he was going. Maybe he had found a map or maybe somebody had shared with him that that was there. I said, we'll never know because That's not written in history, but I said you just never know. Why was he using that cross on that ship? I said, that's
What's so
crazy.
interesting about that is we can deep dive into that.
Yeah.
We can look at the history, bring on the facts, get the data, and we have a unique. What's really unique and what excites me personally, one part of Freemasonry, one of the many things that excites me is being able to walk into this world of deep ritual and deep meaning, faith,
Hmm.
hope, charity, strength, wisdom, beauty, and then also to facilitate a lot of historical documents, a lot of history that's there, but no one has really put the pieces together, and especially in this age, and I understand why people are so busy in their lives, and not
Hmm.
everyone is interested in, history and. As a geek like me, who just is, loves attention to detail and does all. I'll tell you a quick story before we go on, and it just shows you how many things can be lost. And I've told the story many times in many circles. It's a true story. And I went to this Masonic library, and a very prominent Masonic library, and I was introduced to the librarian of this very prominent Masonic library. And I got an email before I landed, and he asked me a couple of questions. Well, what do you want? What do you want? What kind of information you want to study and read in the library? And I said, well, I want to know everything about. This is years ago now. I want to know everything about the links we have with the Knights Templars. I also want to know a particular question, and I got an email from him back straight away, saying, "Oh, we don't really have, these particular stories in this particular geographical area in the world. Don't think there's a real connection. Whilst this other a geographical place in the world, the Freemasons, the historians there, you know, think there is a connection. Yada yada yada." And so I said, "Don't worry." I said, "What kind of books do you want? You want books that have been written about them?" I said, "No, I want the very, very original first-hand pieces of written text you've got of this, and also the very first pieces of written ritual that we've got, the earliest dated ones that we've got." And so I came, and he was a great guy, and he basically has been doing conferences, and he himself wasn't a Mason, but he was the librarian of that particular library, and he's done books and all sorts of things, and he gave me these books and everything that I asked for. And the first thing I found in some of our most original documents in our original ritual was that word, which he didn't believe was an actual thing. He thought it was an American thing, that American Freemasons made that, but it was in the text that was in this different geographical location that wasn't America, and I was blown away
Wow.
because it was there. And I looked at him, he's looking at me, I'm looking at him, he's in his desk, and I'm opposite of his desk, and I'm like, "Come here, quickly come here." And I pointed at it, and the shock on his face. And I was like, if you don't know what you're looking for, you'll never find it. And then the same thing about the Templars, and the stuff that I've uncovered over the years. I've kind of done lectures and showed people the actual text and our linkage with it, and that's something that will break down. Just blows people's mind away, because we've had this information and it's been sitting there, and firsthand stuff that's been written for a couple of hundred years, but we've never identified it. We've always relied on
Right.
historians and other people who are not Masons, who didn't have access to what we have that's all around the world. But
Right.
our our own internal selves, there wasn't much. Unless you're interested, unless you're fanatically interested like I am, to try and find out, how these things, is it factual, is it myth, or whatever. It's very difficult, and I understand why. I can see it, and especially in this day and age. Like, look, we're in a day and age, Billy, where history is not taught in the classes. A lot of people don't have that
No.
enthusiasm like you have or I have for history, and to be able to give history, real history, and also connect the dots is interesting. So I would love to look into Columbus. I would love to spend years
Well, I
in
would just like
research.
to, if
Yeah.
you think about it, and I'll just go back this for just a second. If you if you go down that, and it's just speculation, I don't want anybody to think that I'm trying to teach somebody history. I am not. But if you think about that, the whole thing with him going to where he went to get the money and how he supposedly got that money, we'll never know. But if perhaps the Templars did go to the Americas, I would assume the men they were probably kind to the indigenous people. And if that's the case, they knew that that cross would be a sign of friendship. It wouldn't be of war. So of course he would paint that on the sails, because they would know they wouldn't come in for war. They would be greeted as friends.
Well, you see,
So
you're gone.
there's so many things to think about. I
Well,
mean, there's
well,
so
well,
many.
well,
I mean,
well,
it opens so many doors.
What's fascinating to me about all of this is not necessarily if there was a connection with Columbus and the Knights Templars post the fall of the Knights Templars in the 1300s, and Columbus was, a couple of hundred years after. It's the history of, well, let's look at the Crusades, and how did the Crusades started? Well, it was a kind of like a counter to the expansion of Islam, taking over all these Christian lands from post 500 AD and onwards, and 1100s. That there was the Crusades happened to take back these Christian lands and the Holy Land. And what's really interesting is when Constantinople was lost, which is now Istanbul, under the last Holy Roman Emperor, against Sultan Mehmet, who was this great warrior king, this great sultan. The stories of the Ottomans are just amazing if you listen to it. But because he took over Istanbul, and Constantinople, which became Istanbul, and then today's Turkey, literally Europe and Christendom was cut off from the east, from the Silk Road. So what a lot of people don't say in history is why Columbus was trying to find another route to India is because of the fall of Constantinople, and there's a lot and so there's a lot there that we have to set the scene in future episodes, and then talk about that.
And one more thing that just kind of makes it a little bit more juicy. And so they're wondering what the heck I'm even talking about. So when you find out later on that a lot of the Native Americans, when they started finding out, a lot of the Native Americans believed that there was one God, plural. One God, singular. No, not plural gods. They didn't believe in the sun god. They believed in one God in heaven. The Cherokee and several other.
The Great Chief.
That they were taught that. Right. In heaven, though. They didn't believe it was a sky god or anything like that, that they were taught that. So who taught them that? That didn't just come from, you know what I mean? So somebody had to come teach them that. And I've always speculated was that the Templars. I'm just wondering, anyway, we could maybe deep dive that. And if I'm wrong, then you could say, no, you were way off. And you know what? That wouldn't be the first time I was way off.
I think it's important to ask lots of questions. I think it's important to understand what speculation is from fact. But there's a lot of...
Sure.
So the fact that we've been able to debunk a lot of Templar stuff, but also at the same time show that Templarism, and we will through for later episodes, but we set the scene that Templarism continued through the ages, is exciting. And there is some obscure stuff, like I'm still researching. There's still some obscure stuff, like some mentions, but without getting the... I'm obsessed in trying to find out more information about the proliferation of Christianity in Japan. Because when you see what's really interesting is when you there's a little information of when the first Christians came to proliferate Christianity in Japan, they had Knights Templar sails up, and that to me is fascinating. And so I've done a lot of research in the iconographies that the Christian dynamos used, a lot of symbols, but then again, information is so scant that it's going to take me years, and I may have to go to Japan and go to archives there and find out what happened there. And as I said, the Templar series that we've done, this is years worth of work that's gone through to bring out the facts. And what I'm saying about the Columbus and all that kind of stuff is it may take us years to deep
Yeah.
dive into it, but we'll get there, and we'll give you our best conclusion afterwards, and see if it all connects. But there are so many fascinating things that we can't go over in this episode, and so many interesting connections and factual connections. It will blow your mind. It will blow your mind, and there's a lot of things I want to talk about as well.
Well, you know what? I think we went in enough rabbit holes this small episode.
That's right.
We'll move along until next time. Then we'll have more rabbit holes for you guys to listen to. So
there you go. No, you know what? Absolute privilege. I'm pumped. Listen to the interview that's coming on. And any last words, Billy?
No, thank you guys for listening to us. We really appreciate you. Welcome to another episode of On the Level Podcast with Billy and Sam. Tonight we have a very special guest, the Right Worshipful Senior Grand Warden of the state of Illinois, Angelo Deserio. Welcome, Right Worshipful Senior Grand Warden.
Oh, good evening, brother, and thanks for having me on again.
Oh, it's always our pleasure. So, what's been going on since we had you last time?
Well, I can tell you that I made another vat of and enough lasagna to feed a small army,
and yet none for us.
Well, this was for a board meeting that we had.
Oh, I've heard such good things.
Oh man, I'm so jealous and I'm so hungry right now. Carry on.
So one of the things that we ask you on for tonight, I mean, I really feel like your knowledge is endless, and we have so many things we want to ask you. But we was hoping you would cover. So many members are interested in what the committees are, and we know that you guys do a lot of things. And if you could explain, I think a lot of them know that you start at the very bottom and you get some committees, and then you go to the next step and you get a couple more committees and you get a couple more. And if you could explain the process to people so they can kind of understand, I think a lot of people would be satisfied with that.
Okay. So first off, let's backtrack a little bit. What will happen is usually around July, middle to end of July of the year that we are going to interview, we'll conduct the interviews for all applicants that submit an application to become part of the advancing line for the Grand Lodge.
Mm-hmm.
So once the selection is made of who will be the new junior deacon, then we will go ahead and after installation at Grand Lodge, then you're appointed and we begin the process of assigning committees. So as the junior grand deacon, your first committee that you'll be working with is usually the internet committee or the website committee, and you would be a liaison from the board of directors of the Grand Lodge to the website committee. Once 2 years elapses and you move up to senior deacon, you are then appointed as a liaison to the Masonic Charities Committee.
Now, can I go back? Can I interrupt you just a second? So
certainly,
when you're on these committees, you're hands-on. Do you get to work on those, or do you just oversee them, or how do those work?
You get to participate in any meetings that they have. Now, this is your first 2 years as the website committee. So if they have a meeting and the chairman of the website committee needs you to attend, he will send you an invite to attend any one of the meetings. And you're, of course, allowed to attend all meetings because you are the liaison from the board of directors or the Grand Master, more specifically, to that committee. The same thing would happen when you become senior Grand Deacon, as the liaison to the Masonic Charities Committee, the chairman of the Illinois Masonic Charities Committee would invite you to their meetings, have you participate in any discussion, bring any reports from the board of directors and or the Grand Master, and give that information to them. And then if they have any questions of the board of directors and or the Grand Master, you would bring it back to the board of directors for discussion at the board meetings. Clear as mud, right?
Yeah, well, that's pretty good. I mean, that seems like a pretty big jump. That seems like a lot harder job than the first one.
So, and they, all the committees that you work on or that you're assigned to, I should say, all the committees and the different charities that you're going to be assigned to as you move up and progress in line, you are that direct liaison between the board of directors and the Grand Master to that committee or that charity. The process works the same. You go to their monthly or their quarterly meetings, receive any information to bring back, or receive any information from the board of directors to bring to that committee or charity.
Okay.
So that way everybody knows what's going on. If there's any questions, the board of directors and the Grand Master can answer the questions, and we can discuss what we need to do to move forward to provide more information to our brethren about any committee that you're on.
And all the while you're learning basically how the sausage is made.
Correct. While you're sitting as a junior Grand Deacon and senior Grand Deacon, you attend the board of directors meetings monthly. That way you can see the procedures of the Grand Lodge and what the board of directors actually manages on a month-to-month basis, seeing that the board of directors are the ones that manage the affairs of the Grand Lodge until annual communication.
Okay.
At the annual communication, then the management of the Grand Lodge of Illinois is conducted by the members of the Grand Lodge of Illinois, which are the three principal officers or their proxies when they're sitting at Grand Lodge communication in October. So once you're complete with your time as the senior Grand Deacon and you get elected as the junior Grand Warden, you are assigned to the IMSAP, or the Student Assistance Program Board, as the direct liaison, again, to the Grand Master and the board of directors, and vice versa, from the board of directors back to that charity. You're involved in all the planning, all the information that comes forth from the committee, all the information that comes forth from the board of managers. You participate in that and communicate any questions or any request either way from the board of directors or the board of managers for that specific charity.
That actually seems like it'd be a pretty big job.
That one, the student assistance program is a major, one of our major charities. We do have three major charities in the state of Illinois. We have the Student Assistance Program. We have IMOS, or the Illinois Masonic Outreach Service, and we have IMCAP, or the Illinois Masonic Charity Children's Assistance Program.
Right.
And it was Grandmaster Clark who set the precedence and made it so that when you were junior warden, you sat on the Student Assistance Board. When you become senior warden, you sit on the IMOS board. And when you become deputy Grand Master, you sit on the IMCAP board, which will then give you knowledge by the time you're Grand Master. You'll get a working knowledge of all three charities and how they function and what some of their programs are and how you can communicate to assist the brethren across the state.
That's awesome.
That's fantastic.
So what's one of my questions is that's included everything else. A right worshipful Grand Junior Deacon, and senior deacon, everything else you guys do. There's so many things you guys do, and turning up, doing events, participating in your local lodge, going to other lodges, going to other jurisdictions. That's a phenomenal amount of work, and how's it been in your experience going through all this?
Oh, it's been absolutely wonderful. I enjoy going out and meeting the brethren across the state. I enjoy going out and talking with them and spending time with them. Right now is one of our consuming times of the year. We just got back from a Illinois charities trip to visit some of our snowbird luncheon people in Arizona. We're going to, in February, all of us will be attending the Conference of Grand Masters up in Chicago. And then in March, we have another snowbird luncheon planned. So we're going to be doing that. Also, in with that, we have 15 town hall meetings scheduled throughout the state. We've already completed 4 of them, and we still have 11 more to go that are usually complete by the end of May.
Well, what's really cool, from my understanding, and I have yet to go to one, what the Grand Lodge does, what you guys do, is the town hall meetings is where brothers from particular parts of the state are able to meet the Grand Lodge and ask questions. Can you just touch on that a little bit and elaborate?
Certainly. The Grand Lodge officers would prefer that we get questions from the members. We can get up there and talk for 2 hours. That wouldn't be a problem for some of us. Some of us have that. I wouldn't say problem, but they have the shyness. Okay, so but we prefer to have our brethren ask us questions. One of the best questions that came from a town hall was one of all the farms that we own and govern purchases of farms. And that was a beautiful suggestion, and it's worked out well for us.
Mm-hmm.
When we go to these town halls, there's no questions that are off limits. There's no questions that we will not try to answer and enlighten our brethren across the state.
And can you elaborate on the you said something like I apologize if I butchered this, but you said something like the bird's eye meals or something. What exactly is that?
You mean the snowbird?
The snowbird, that's the one. Yes, sir.
Yeah, the snowbirds, where we go and visit some of our retired brethren that may have, or our retired brethren or our widows that may have moved out of the state, so we communicate with them what's going on in Illinois.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
And we can also visit with them to make sure that there's no needs. They understand that they can always contact us, and just because they don't live in the state of Illinois, it doesn't mean that we're not here to help them as Illinois Masons.
So that's a lot of stuff, and I really like the snowbird. I mean that harks back to a lot of our ritual and a lot of our tenets of our brotherhood. Billy, any questions, sir?
No, I'm just, no one has. That's why I'm not trying to, blow blow up the podcast anymore. Well, yeah, that's a lie. I am, but I think the guys, as you can see with the numbers when you do these, that the people that come on here and watch these things, I think that's why the people's really enjoying these, because they get to know you guys and they get to hear what you have to say, where they wouldn't maybe get them, in other ways. And so I think it's great that they're getting to hear you in your own words, and tell what you do, because a lot of people have no idea. A lot of times I've heard myself, and maybe you have before you were a grand officer, but I heard some old guys go, what does Grand Lodge even do? They talk about it like this is this entity that's not even what is Grand Lodge? What is that? they act like it's not even people. If you know what I'm talking about, these
I
old guys, you just they act like it's this thing that lives over in a hole somewhere, that Grand Lodge. And it's funny, and you just, but it's amazing how people act. And it's just, I don't know, maybe it's just me. It just kind of makes me laugh sometimes when you
I
hear
love
these
it.
old
I
guys
love it.
talking
The
about.
fact that there's the access and understanding, and Right Worshipful brother, Angelo. He's the breaking down of just the
Yeah.
function of the committees and what they do and setting it up for understanding. And it's kind of like also it seems like that it's a good, I guess, executive management build up until you get to become Grand Master and you attain all this experience, which I think is important. And this has all been laid out and set up, and you get to engage with members who have been appointed across the state to be on these committees, who are our brothers from across the state. And I just think that's fantastic. And these committee members are basically brothers of the state who are basically selected and appointed for these positions. So you get to meet different people across the state for these committees, and different backgrounds, different responsibilities, and they all have this goal to support not only Grand Lodge but the state, the charities, and a lot of our tenets that are very important to us, which is faith, hope, and charity. Have I got that right?
You've got it right. You're right. You're spot on target right there. And what we do like to clarify and let our brethren know is that when we appoint people when the Grand Master, I don't want to say we, the Grand Master is the only person who makes the appointments, but when the Grand Master appoints these brethren to these committees, he tries to find people that are in that specialized area. So the farm committee, like I alluded to previously, the people that are on this, the brethren that are on this farm committee now are all farmers.
Uh-huh.
And
Wow.
they understand what needs to be done on a farm to make it more productive, to make it so that you gain a good crop, so that you maintain the property. So they're giving guidance on what needs to be done if we're looking at a piece of property that might be up for sale.
That's
The
awesome.
finance committee, that's appointed now by the Grand Master, everybody that's on the finance committee, every one of the brethren on the finance committee are all finance managers or people who work in the finance field. So they can make educated informational statements to the Grand Master when something comes up and when questions come up.
That's great. Yeah, you want to get the best people in the field to give you the best advice. That's great. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, what's really heartwarming as well is the structure, the function, the collaboration of the brethren, using the strength of the brethren in terms of their specialization, which absolutely makes sense, of putting the right people in the right place, who have that particular passion, because it's something they've been doing for a long time, that wisdom that comes with years worth of, and sometimes decades of experience. And then being able to share that knowledge across the state, that's absolutely fantastic. And it's really interesting to seeing that, because everything you've just told me, for me, so I think the thing is, Billy, and worshipful brother Billy and right worshipful brother Angelo, is there's so much going on just within the local scene sometimes that we can lose our way in just focusing on our small little localities, and in terms of Blue Lodge and stuff like that. So it's really nice that you've been able to break down the process. And I always love one thing that brings a smile to my face is when I can, and I'm in the country, I always love going to the grand sessions where you get to meet all the brothers across the state, and there's like thousands of Masons, and it's done in Springfield, and you get to see this communications that's been going on for what communication number are we on? It's like 100 and it's over 170, isn't it? Or have I got my numbers wrong?
No, I think we're the Grand Lodge of Illinois is in effect for 184 years, I believe it is now.
Wow.
But it's our 90th. I think we just completed our 90. No, well, we're at our 101st, 103rd Grandmaster. Currently is Grandmaster Farrell. He is our 103rd Grandmaster for this state.
Wow.
So we're at 103 communications.
That's amazing. That's absolutely phenomenal. And yeah, so you get that history and knowing that brethrens of the 100 plus years ago, 200 years ago, like, as you said, 184 years ago that we've been around, all that kind of that. It's that history and continuing that history. Seeing the beautiful opening, seeing brethren from outer state come and support and be there as well. It's just phenomenal, and all that is built up through all the immense hard work, because there's a lot of reporting that goes on as well, that goes in everything. There's so much transparency, so you get this document which details everything that the Grand Lodge has done through the past year, and it's just a phenomenal amount of work and a phenomenal amount of detail, and all the committees come and they do their reports, and the brethren get to sit there, and then if there's anything in terms of legislation that the Grand Lodge want to do to take things to the next level, the vote goes on the floor, and members. What's really what makes me really proud is that tradition as well of any member, as long as they submit a piece of legislation and it's sent to Grand Lodge at a certain time, well before the actual event, and it's gone through jurisprudence. They've checked it to make sure it's all well written, and whilst the intent is written as the intender wanted, they have this opportunity for that to be voted on the floor, and I just find that all fascinating. And you guys get to write. You've been right in the thick of it now for a couple of years. I mean, how's that experience been for yourself?
I've been attending Grand Lodge sessions since I was raised as a Master Mason. I was raised in 2004, May of 2004, and that October I went to my first Grand Lodge session, and I have been there ever since. 21 years I've been going. The experience of our brethren, how they conduct themselves on the floor with decorum, with diplomacy, and with respect for one another is something that you will not see in most jurisdictions. Now, I don't want to say most jurisdictions. Let's say some jurisdictions. You will not. You might not see it if you watch some of a council meeting for a local city or a local organization. Our brethren conduct themselves with such diplomacy and respect for one another that it's unmatched.
It's huge. I think you're right.
I've always
think you're right.
wondered that. I'm sorry.
No, go
I
on.
always wondered how other states compared to, because I always thought ours really, I haven't been a Mason as long as you have, but I've never missed one since I've become a Master Mason as well. You know what? It's become so, man, it's like coming to a family reunion almost. That kind of experience to me, because you see people that you don't see for, till next time you come to grand sessions, a lot of them. And, especially a lot of older members that don't get around as much as they used to. And it's just, it's the friendships you made there. And
Correct.
it's a great experience to me. I love to see the sessions themselves, and then the in between times and the breakout classes are always, you know, um, we got some of the best teachers. I couldn't imagine teachers isn't the right word, but whatever you would call the instructors that we have that put on those classes, outstanding. You know, um, I would love to have them on our podcast sometime, but it's just incredible. But anyway, and let me go back and ask a question about our some of the things that we do in your committees. I know you travel around and you've probably seen some of these other states. Do you think all the states do the committees like that, or is it something unique to Illinois?
It's something unique to Illinois. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that all the states do it, or I'm not going to say that all the states have the same committees that we do.
Uh-huh.
Most states have committees,
Right.
as they see fit that they need to govern their state.
Right. I didn't know if they
Um,
all was required to go through them, the committees. I'm sure they're not, but I just wondered if it was kind of unique to Illinois if they required them to be a part of that or not.
Well, let's take our IMOS committee, for example,
Uh-huh.
our IMOS board of managers. We have an IMOS board of managers because we no longer have a home. We used to have a Masonic home down in Sullivan.
Right.
Now, if you go to, I believe it's Missouri, Missouri still has a brick and mortar home.
Right.
So they have a board that manages the home under a different guideline than what we have, how we manage our charity that works well for us in this state.
Okay.
Okay. Some states do not have a student assistance program. They don't even offer the program for the teachers in their state.
Okay.
Some states don't have a farm committee because they may not purchase farmland.
That makes sense.
So, but there are states that have committees that we don't.
Right, and it's very
They-
specific as well, isn't it? Because Illinois is a huge So, for example, let's take agriculture, and I'm a big fan of agriculture. I watch I watch there's this Amazon thing called Clarkson's about British farming, and I just love me and my wife love watching that, and I have friends who are masons, who are farmers, or their fathers were farmers, and they have this land now which they rent out the land. It's a fascinating process, and agriculture is really important. It's the sustenance that feeds us, and supporting the farmers of your state and your country, I think, is extremely important, and it's hard, honest work. It's fascinating, and it's a lot of grafting as well, and it's not an easy job as well, farming, and there's something to it that's been it's a part of our process that's been done for thousands of years, and here we are in 2026 doing something important. And the fact that my Grand Lodge, which is the Grand Lodge of Illinois, is doing focusing on farming, that for me is huge. That for me is huge, and it's nice to know that there is support, there's interest in supporting and continuing the traditions of farming in Illinois. Sorry, I just went off on a rant here, but I just thought that was something important to talk about.
Oh no, that's okay. Grandmaster Jackson has always said, when he was Grandmaster, he said, the one thing they're never going to make more of is land.
Yes.
No matter what you do, how you look at it, they're never going to make any more land.
You're right. You don't know how many acres we own now, do you?
We're just under 7,000.
Oh, okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We're just under 7,000. We're one of the big players in farming. I mean, by no means we're the biggest, by no means.
Yeah.
But we're in a good situation right now for what we want for our farmland committee.
That's incredible, and I wish and I hope, God willing, more farmland, and more supporting in that particular type of industry, because they need it, and it's a very difficult job, and there's so many things that are affected that we take for granted. Food doesn't turn up magically in a local kiosk or in a local Hy-Vee or Walmart. There's a lot of that goes through the process, and it's a good old traditional job. So one of my questions is like, how you been? What have you been up to since the new year? I've been seeing these fantastic pictures of yourselves and others doing these great things, and what have you been up to? You seem to be, as always, very busy. But how you been?
I've been everything is going great. My key focus right now is getting ready for the Conference of Grandmasters. We are hosting that this year up in Rosemont, Illinois. There is going to be about 65 65 jurisdictions attending.
Oh my God.
We're going to be somewhere around 900 people between Masons and jurisdictions that come and visit and communicate with us, and ladies that come with their ladies and significant others that come with their with the Masons. There's going to be about 850 to 900 people that attend this.
Wow, that's a lot.
So it's a week-long conference that we're going to be attending and hosting here in Illinois.
How often does Illinois get that?
Well, the Conference of Grandmaster is every year.
Yeah.
And the way the process is set up is each year it's on either side of the Mason-Dixon.
Okay.
So this
Mississippi
year,
River, right?
Mississippi River for general purposes, yeah. So this year we're in Illinois. Next year we'll be in Missouri. The following year we're going to be in Minnesota, and then it goes back over the other side. So
Okay.
we don't have anything confirmed yet after Minnesota, but we're still working on that. Okay. Hopefully we're trying to figure out what we can do at someplace warm.
Yeah.
So when you say 65 jurisdictions, just for the audience to understand what that means, that's 65. I mean, obviously, I guess there's a lot of representation in America, and I believe if you can correct me if I'm wrong, there should be about 51 jurisdictions. So there is
50 states.
50 states, 52 jurisdictions. Sorry, that's my bad American geographics here. But so you say there are another 15 jurisdictions from around the world. So it's like an international conference and he says Grand Master. I expect it was all these grand lines get together and they had this fantastic conference, and that sounds to me freaking epic. That's really epic. So that sounds very exciting.
So this conference is actually called the Conference of Grandmasters of North America.
Oh wow.
Oh, okay.
So that's how we excuse me, that's how we have the 65 jurisdictions. So it's obviously the 51 jurisdictions in the continental United States, including Washington, D.C., Alaska, and Hawaii.
Nice.
Okay.
Then you have all the jurisdictions from Canada, and you have all the jurisdictions from Mexico that are part of this conference.
Did I see something on Facebook that possibly a gentleman from Russia's coming?
Correct. Russia comes, Bulgaria comes. We get people from the Philippines that come. We get people from South America that shows up from time to time, not always, but from time to time. There are multiple foreign jurisdictions that are not part of this conference, but they are part of a separate conference that come and communicate and share some time with us and talk with us, and there's even some other jurisdictions that are not part of the Conference of Grandmasters of North America that want to seek recognition by this conference so that they can function regular Freemasonry and be recognized by us as well.
Oh, so they're not accepted Freemasons yet.
No, they may be accepted Freemasons, and it may be a new grand jurisdiction that's formed, and they have to do certain criteria to be recognized by this conference.
Oh, I understand. Yeah.
That sounds amazing. So what's really energizing me, and the reason why I get so kind of like pumped after listening to yourself, right, Worship Brother, and other members of Grand Lodge when you come on, is in this time where I think leadership is so important across the world, and in a time where leading by example is so important. We've got such a dynamic team in terms of the Grand Line officers and everything you guys are doing. What does it feel like being on the tip of the spear?
Oh, I believe Pat Grubbs said it when he was on your podcast, that we are as you said, a dynamic and cohesive team. There are, like in any organization, there are times that we may not 100% at any given point agree with everything. Mm-hmm. But when we do walk away, we come to a consensus, we come to an agreement, and we do walk away from any particular meeting as brothers with the respect and love for one another.
That's huge.
And how could you ask for more than that? Yeah, that's great.
We all work together. Our goal is to improve Freemasonry in Illinois and improve the experience that the brethren across Illinois have when we're all together. Whether it be in the southern area or the western area or the northern area, whether it be wherever we are, we must always remember that we're brethren.
I think that's huge. I know my local lodge, Frank and Nicole Lodge, 1170, and what I call my second home, St. Paul's Lodge 500. The leadership is so important in all levels, whether, not only for the officers of the lodge, but the area and also the Grand Lodge. And it's just exciting to see everyone so excited. I remember my brethren of St. Paul's, I think it was the year before. I think they do it every year at the grand sessions that we just talked about. They have this golf cart buggy service where they help the elderly members and other members who sometimes, it's a bit of a travel for them because there's a huge parking space, and they come and help and do that kind of service. And just the pride they have. And these are all professionals. Some of them are like restaurant owners, and others are businessmen and doctors and teachers and all walks of life. And the pride they take to help. I remember, one grand session, which was really nice because they asked me to put the flag, the American flag, and we came in as Knights Templars, and that was a very special moment for me to do that in the state of Illinois with my fellow Knights Templars, basically. And I was carrying all this gear because I had to change into my Templar suit and then change back into my normal suit, and all that kind of stuff. And one of them saw me and they said, "Hey Sam, hop on this little golf cart buggy," which saved my bacon because I would have tripped and fallen over all the stuff I had and I didn't plan it through. But it's just those
because the American flag burns his skin. I didn't want to bring that up, but it's the truth.
But no, it was emblematical of brotherhood and the pride people take. But I've learned a lot today. I really appreciate you coming on, Right Worshipful brother, and actually, all of us who are going to listen in are going to learn a lot about kind of like the construction, the makeup and the build of Grand Lodge, and a lot more about it. And I think that's so important to understand, everything that's done, and it really warms my heart. Do you have any further questions, Billy?
I don't. I just want to thank you again because the listeners really do appreciate when the grand officers come on. I can't thank you enough for them because they do really appreciate it.
Well, we thank you for allowing us to be on and answering any questions and sharing any information that we can share.
Okay, well, as people ask me, I'm just going to jot them down, and if you'll be willing to come back on again, we'd be glad to have you.
Oh. Certainly, although they may be getting tired of listening to me. We got other guys that might be able to.
The Grandmaster's going to come on again. He's
okay.
Going to come on again, I believe next Monday. So
awesome.
He said he was feeling under the weather, but he's getting a little better. I think you guys wore him out. You guys working pretty hard, I think.
Yep, that's
somebody does. I don't know.
That's what we're trying. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to help him along and wear him out slowly but surely.
He'll be done by his 2 years is up.
Yeah.
So thank you, brother. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to On the Level podcast, your Masonic podcast. When you are ready, duly and truly prepared, you can always knock on the door.